Okay, welcome back. Now we will be talking about the cell structure and organelles found in Unit 2, Cells. These are the information regarding the cellular boundaries, and most of the other items can be found in Unit 2, starting on page 196. Cell membrane. The cell membrane is the outside of the cell. It is going to be a lipid bilayer on the top and the bottom, and combined they form the cell membrane. It surrounds all cells in a double layer of lipids. It is selectively permeable, so basically this means some things can get in, some things can get out. So think of a door in a classroom. Think if you were allowed to let all freshmen in and out, but the door elected or decided not to let any sophomores into the classroom. The door, or whoever's controlling the door, is selecting who can come in and out. The cell basically does the same thing with the outside of the cell. The main function is it regulates what enters and leaves, provides protection, and helps to provide support. A cell wall is basically found on the outside of the cell membrane in all plants. It's found on the outside of the cell membrane, just as I mentioned, and is found in plants, fungi, algae, and prokaryotes. The main function is basically to provide extra support to help plants stand up and defy gravity so they can grow towards the source of light. All plants need light in order to create their energy. So think of it as kind of like ivy. If ivy was growing out, it would have nowhere to go. But the leaves need to grow up, so ivy has this thing where it'll crawl up walls, like at Wrigley Field in the outfield. A tree needs to grow up towards the sky in order to have leaves that'll eventually create energy. Moving on, cell organization on the inside. Information for this can be found on 196, 197, and page 199. The nucleus. All eukaryotes, including plants and animals, have a nucleus. The difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes is the prokaryotes basically looks like spaghetti mixed around. That's all the genetic material. In a eukaryote, such as plants and animals, is basically put in a center that is controlled and protected. So think of a peanut M&M. The peanut is basically all the DNA information. The outside is nice and protected with the thin candy shell, and then in between you have the chocolate, which would basically be represented of the chromatins that are in the nucleus. The main function is it basically contains, in the form of a chromatin, coded instruments for making proteins and other molecules. This contains the following parts. The nuclear envelope. This is a member protection to allow RNA and proteins in and out through the nuclear pores. So if you want to think an envelope that looks like Swiss cheese with holes in it, the holes would allow stuff in and out, but if you had something actually in the envelope, it would be protected for the most part. Nucleolus. These make ribosomes. Here's a picture. On the outside, you will see these holes represent kind of like the Swiss cheese. Things can come in and out of the cell. And the middle part, think of the M&M, this would be like the chocolate or the chromatins. These are basically chromosomes that are kind of wound up. Another way you can think of this is the outside of a baseball. This is the middle part of the baseball where all the rubber fibers are kind of wound up. And the inside would be a cork. In this case, it would be the nucleus where the genetic info is included. The cytoskeleton, otherwise known as the cytoplasm. The main function of this is it's made up of protein pieces that help give the cell shape. Involved in many forms of cell movement and houses most of the cell organelles. Organelles that store, clean up, and support. These can be found on pages 198 and 199 of your textbook. Vacuoles. The main function is storage area for water, salts, proteins, and carbohydrates. So if you want to think of this as the pantry of the cell, basically anything that the cell will need to carry out all operations and to live, water, salts, proteins to make other proteins and parts of the cell, and carbohydrates housed here, kind of like a big collection of plastic containers. It is a cell-like structure that basically in plants it'll be very big, in animal cells it'll be very small. Many plant cells have a single large vacuole filled with liquid. This helps to support heavy structures such as stems and leaves. If you want to think of it as a big rubber, some of those like the sumo wrestling suits that people can put on, The sumo wrestling suit is the outer layer of the plant. You being inside or acting kind of as a big vacuole, you'll help give it support. You're filling it up. This helps to support the heavy parts of the tree that might give way in big storms or anything. Also found in single-celled organisms and animal cells. Vacuoles in a plant cell. Notice how much room the vacuole takes up in the cell. This whole middle part that I'm scrolling around on. Vesicles, found in all eukaryotic cells. Main function, store and move materials between organelles and the cell surface. So if you want to think of UPS trucks moving back and forth with stuff around Christmas time. Lysosomes, they're filled with enzymes. The main function is to break down lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins and food from particles that can be used by the cell. The other thing too is they break down organelles that are no longer useful. One way to think of this is a Grim Reaper, or the sickle. Basically, it was originally used to harvest crops before the time of modern machinery. Also, in some religious circles and around Halloween, you will see the Grim Reaper, who basically has that sickle, which is a long pole with kind of a blade on the top. That is also to signify bringing people to the afterlife. So breaking down cells that are no longer useful, kind of like a thing with death. So one thing, just to put in your notes, if that'll help you remember. Centrioles. The main function is used in cell division to separate chromosomes during mitosis, usually only found in animal cells in the cytoplasm. Organelles that build proteins. These will be located in your book on pages 200 and 201. Ribosomes. One of the most important jobs in the cell is making proteins. These are free ribosomes work in the cytoplasm. The bound ribosomes are stuck on the ER. They are what makes it rough. So the ER. Made of small particles of RNA and proteins. These are made in the nucleus. The main function is to help make the proteins. They do this by following coded instructions that come from DNA in the nucleus. Free and bound ribosomes. Here you have an example of the ribosomes and the sister name. The endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is involved in making proteins, has ribosomes on the surface, how it gets its name, and the main function modifies proteins. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or the smooth ER, has no ribosomes on the surface. Main purpose is to make lipids. Interesting ER facts. You should write these down. Cells that produce hormones have many smoother ERs. Example, testes and ovaries, and lots of smooth ER. Liver is the main organ in your body for drug and alcohol detoxification. Therefore, the cells of the liver have a smoother ER too. The Golgi apparatus, the Golgi body. After proteins are made by the RER, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they move to the Golgi. Main function. Packages, sorts, stores proteins and other materials from the ER. Organelles that capture and release energy. This information will be found on page 202. Chloroplasts is found in plants and some organisms, bacteria, and algae. Animals and fungi do not contain chloroplasts. Chloroplast contains chlorophyll, which makes the plant look green. So if you look, lower right-hand corner, this is a picture of a few cells under magnification. See the green? That is the chloroplast. These are plant cells. Main function, use energy from the sun to make food through photosynthesis. Mitochondria. The main function is to release energy stored from food molecules to be used to power growth, development, and movement. Nearly all eukaryotes have a mitochondria. Important cells that need energy have more mitochondria. So basically, if you're doing more, you're going to be more active, you will have more mitochondria. Examples in humans include muscles and the heart. That concludes our quick review of the PowerPoint notes for Unit 2, Section 7.2. If you have any questions, please see Ms. Leone or Mr. Franta. Thanks.